I'm John Lomax with WKRC in Cincinnati. It's nice to talk to you today.
You too, John. Thanks.
Okay, well, I have several questions I want to broach today. Some kind of local and others national and international. So let's start with the local politics first. First of all, you are going to face a political newcomer in November. And it seems as if a number of people who are either new to politics or new to running for office are involved in races this year. And also a number of them are women. What is your overall assessment of the slate of candidates, both Republican and Democrat?
Well, I was impressed with the number of women and frankly the number of women that won. So I think that shows the country is anxious to embrace women in roles, elected officials. Of course, you know, that didn't guarantee victory, as we saw last night. Just being a woman, ideas still matter and results matter, and but the participation among women was pretty impressive. And you know, just like when I ran 2 years ago, I basically said, hey, if you want different results, you need to send a different sort of experience there. And so I think that's something that's trending across the country and to some extent locally.
Yeah, in your particular race, I think that Ms. Enoch has not run before for political office. How do you size up your race in that particular district?
Well, I look forward to sharing ideas. I think there'll be a strong contrast between the direction she wants to take the country and the direction I feel the country should go in. And I think we'll share a love for our home state and our home district. But we'll have different ideas about what will move us forward.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about what happened statewide. How are you handicapping the gubernatorial race? Mike DeWine versus Richard Cordray. They have faced off once before, and it was pretty close in that state attorney's race nearly 10 years ago. What do you think is going to happen this time?
Well, I think DeWine, Husted are going to prevail strongly. And if you look at voter turnout last night, clearly there was no blue wave in turnout numbers. The Republicans outperformed in that governor's race in terms of voter turnout, just like they did in the Senate race, though in the Senate race it wasn't contested. But I feel very good about the chances for Ohio to continue to be led by a Republican governor, and I think DeWine, Husted are going to be a strong team.
Now, something that could upset the balance in the state legislature will be the passage of Issue 1, and that is how you draw up the congressional districts. Now, you don't have to worry about that right now because at the very earliest it would happen after the 2020 census. But what kind of impact do you think that's going to have on elections in the future?
Well, I think it'll create a change. The concern I had about the amendment is that it has this path that requires a lot of consensus, which is good, but in the absence of that consensus could result in districts being redrawn every 4 years. But I think it's probably a step in the right direction in the sense of building a consensus and really looking at the way our districts, our congressional districts, are drawn very intentionally. I'm glad that the legislature still has a voice in that process, and I think the people's representatives are the most direct path to weigh in on it.
Okay, let's move to international politics now. Not even politics, just what's happening internationally. We just heard this morning that Mike Pompeo is on the way home from North Korea with 3 Americans who are detained in North Korea. Let me get your reaction to that.
Well, I'm incredibly excited. As expected, Mike Pompeo, I think, is going to be a very successful and very strong Secretary of State. This really is building on results that were laid by a different leader, though. I mean, President Trump has gone in a very different direction than previous administrations, particularly with North Korea, and he's achieved different results. If you remember, the previous president couldn't secure the release of an American from Mexico. This current president's already returned 3 from North Korea. And of course, unfortunately, Otto Warmbier couldn't come back to the United States under these kind of terms, and I'm sure that context played into this negotiation. So I still really grieve for the Warmbier family and the loss. Hopefully there can be some justice in the resolution that we hope we can secure with North Korea.
Yeah, speaking of North Korea, so there are some analysts who think that President Trump's decision to draw the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal may have an impact on whatever meetings and negotiations he may have with Kim Jong-un. They're saying that the North Koreans have no reason to trust the U.S. will keep its word. What's your take on that?
Well, I disagree with that conclusion. I think the reality is that they have no reason to believe that Trump will sign a fake agreement that won't result in real change. I think they know that Trump will expect actual meaningful results out of an agreement. And I think that if there's a treaty, this president will submit it to Congress so that it becomes a treaty, not just a deal between a couple people. I think we've seen the consequences of governing by cell phone and pen, not just in the undoing of this treaty, but the undoing of Paris, the undoing of 16 Congressional Review Act passages that are clawing back the results of trying to govern in an authoritarian style with a cell phone and pen. We're using legislative process to support the president, and that's the structure that our founders created.
In a few minutes that I have left, I think I only have about a minute or so left, what is your assessment of President Trump pulling the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal?
Well, I think it makes it very incumbent on the president to build a unifying framework, to work with our allies, to apply the kind of pressure that will get real results in Iran. The reality is in North Korea, we had a deal that Bill Clinton negotiated where North Korea just this time last year was threatening us with nuclear weapons that they supposedly gave up under that agreement. So just having an agreement in place doesn't cure it. It has to be meaningful. And I think the Iran deal, as structured under the Obama administration, was worse than the Korean deal that Bill Clinton negotiated. So I think that you could have gone about it in a different way. I assume they've worked hard to try to get some will amongst the Iranians to improve upon that deal, and concluded that they needed to break the deal and hope for a better, more meaningful agreement.
All right, Congressman Davidson, thank you so much for talking with us this morning.
Thank you.